Good evening. Welcome to the Northborough Open Space Committee meeting for December 20. This open meeting of the Northborough Open Space Committee is being conducted remotely pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law March 29, 2023. All members of the Open Space Committee are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. The act allows the Open Space Committee to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda. Members of the public who wish to view the live stream of the meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. Good evening. I'm going to take a roll call of open space members who are with us tonight. I want to call your name. Please respond in the affirmative. Paul T.
Here.
Paul C.
Here.
Dan.
Here.
Leslie.
Here.
Brian.
Here.
And I'm John Campbell. So we have a quorum and we can begin. The primary item on our agenda tonight is to discuss and consider the letter received by the owner, and we'll call him the seller, of 432 Whitney Street, and that the town has a right of first refusal on this property because it's currently under the Chapter 61A program. So we'll get right into it. We considered this property when a similar notice was posted in 2021. And I expect that our discussion will follow similar lines. This is for the property on, shall we call it, the south east side of Whitney Street toward the highway, and also bordering the aqueduct and the railroad tracks in that area. It is currently unoccupied land. It also borders existing conservation land and could provide a connection to other open space and conservation land up into Berlin, and therefore create a habitat corridor, as well as enhancing possible passive recreation and trails and so on. So we are the Open Space Committee, and our business is really to consider whether a parcel meets our criteria for open space preservation, and that we would bring it forth under that criteria. I think that it most certainly does, for some of the reasons mentioned earlier, that it would prevent development on the parcel, and that also it is contiguous with and connects to other existing open space and would enhance recreation opportunities. So it checks several boxes. I want to open it up to all the committee members right now. Please, just chime in. We're fairly informal tonight, but thoughts for the pros and cons of recommending that the town execute its right of first refusal and consider acquiring the property.
Do we know what the asking price is this time? I
It's,
think last year when last time we discussed it, we actually had a price.
yeah, so there's a purchase and sale agreement that accompanies the notice, and it's for 1.7 million.
Okay.
This is 23.77 acres.
I'll start, I guess. I was trying to remember what I said last time, but I'm guessing my opinion probably hasn't changed, so I'll probably say the same thing. I think this is well worth pursuing, given the size, particularly in Northborough, the size of the parcel is unique. I do like the way it's positioned, sort of completes sort of a natural corridor between two pieces of existing open space. And yeah, essentially preventing development on this, I think, is in the town's best interest. So I would vote to support the purchase of this.
Yeah, I agree with Dan on all of those things, and also on the fact how close it is to the water resources and tributaries to the Assabet. And I think it's really exciting, the potential for the trail connections. Obviously, it's purchasing it would be a much better alternative than what is currently being proposed, but it has all the natural resources attributes to back up a purchase, I think.
Ashley, you arrived just after the roll call. So if I could just ask you to identify yourself. So for the record, Ashley Davies, are you present?
Yes, Ashley Davies, I am present.
I hear you. Thank you for doing that officially. Please continue. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Nope, that was all. I did have one question. I just don't know if town council has answered this. Obviously, as an open space committee, we'd be making a vote and a recommendation based on our interest in the parcel for conservation. I just didn't know, when you're exercising a right of first refusal on a chapter 61A, does the entirety of the parcel have to remain in that current use or another conservation use? Or can some portion of it be auctioned off, say portion of the frontage or something, in case the town felt that they wanted to recoup some of the costs? I'm not recommending that option. I just know that question has been asked by others in town, and I just didn't know if we had an answer from town council on it.
Well, just for me, I'm assuming, should the town exercise its right and should the town buy the property, then the town would have the right to do what it wants. Now, if it would depend on how it was purchased. If the purchase came from, or in part from, CPA funds, then it would be subject to those restrictions. And it would have to be, permanently conserved as conservation or recreation land. If it was parceled or the purchase was acquired partly with CPA and partly with other funding, it's possible that it could be, the town meeting vote to acquire it could be structured that way. That's a guess. But if you, in theory, if you acquired it without CPA funds, then the town would have no restrictions on its future use and or resale, I wouldn't think. Does that sound about right, Vinny?
Yes, as far as chapter 61 land, it doesn't have to stay in chapter 61 land once it's, this is the notice that it's being taken out, and the town would acquire it and would be able to use it as they see fit with the requirements or limitations that are associated with whatever grants that they get. If the town wanted to do housing on it through the CPA, that would allow some housing to be built there, but it all depends on how the wording is going to CPA.
Sounds correct.
Thank
Now,
you.
having said that, should this move forward, then the question will be asked, what CPA resources are there? We talked about this in prior meetings, and in fact, it influenced our sponsoring an application for CPA funding for this cycle to add to the conservation fund. I checked again, looking at the numbers. There's $664,000 in the conservation fund of prior CPA granted money, another $60,000 of other conservation fund money, available but not under the exact same CPA restrictions. And it was for those reasons that we wrote our application for $350,000 so that we could work toward the $1 million goal. That still might not purchase this property. I was curious about the value of it too. I'm assuming we would need to get our own appraisal should it move to that point, and how that would compare to the price that's in the right of first refusal. And another legal
Sure.
question is, does the town have to acquire it for the same price as the purchase and sale that's currently posted, or not?
Yeah, I mean, I can answer that, John. You do have to match the offer in the purchase and sale, but when they're submitting a purchase and sale or an offer for a chapter 61A right of first refusal notice, it can't have contingencies. So I haven't read through the entire thing, but if I believe there are contingencies in that purchase and sale, and so they would need to present purchase price without contingencies. So I think this happened with another property we were looking at, and they kind of went back, and then I think they ended up not going forward because the buyer wasn't interested in, making a deal without contingencies.
Interesting. I
So-
forgot that part.
Yeah.
And he's saying in theory, if the PNS is written without contingencies, it might affect the price a buyer is willing to pay.
Right. Yep. Because I'm pretty sure the buyer wants to know that they can develop the type of structure that they'd like to put there, and that they can get all the approvals necessary. And we do not have to match an offer that has those types of contingencies in it. It has to be a very clear, straightforward offer.
Interesting. Well, that might affect the ultimate cost. It seems high to me, but I don't follow the market for land or industrial land. It's a lot higher per acre than we have paid previously for open space conservation. I went back and looked at the Green Street property, formerly known as the Shunder property. And that was 1.25 roughly for 55 acres. So it was like 22,000 an acre, where this property offers more like 71,000 an acre. Shunder was 12 years ago.
I have two things I wanted to mention. First of all, I think I mentioned I have a 7 o'clock meeting. I'm gonna have to go, but it seems like we've got a quorum without me. I do have to duck out before we vote. And
We're
also,
aware of that, and we'll vote prior to you needing to leave. Fully aware of it, Leslie. Thank you.
okay. And also, I'm torn about the question I'm about to ask because I don't know if I want to be influenced by our previous conversation. But do you remember all the logic? As I recall, we voted against it last time, correct?
No, incorrect. We might have had two meetings. I went back and looked at the minutes, so I apologize, but we had at the time both 429 Whitney and 432 Whitney were being the notices were posted on both. So there was a lot of misgivings about the town entering into a deal to purchase 429. And as I recall, in general, it influenced all of our discussion around both properties, and that us feeling like it might not be in the town's best interest. Then our discussion came around to specifically the benefits of 432 that we've listed briefly here tonight, and that it actually meets many criteria for open space. So our conclusion was to actually recommend that the town consider exercising its right for 432.
Okay.
Subsequent to that, it seemed like both notices were pulled, and that the properties were no longer, if there were PNSs in place, they were pulled away. That's my recollection.
Okay, thank you.
One thing about the price too, this is zoned commercial, not residential, so I'm guessing that might influence the price as well.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I was going to make a similar comment. This one has like truck access, and it's 12 years later, so the price increase seems, I mean, it's big, but it doesn't seem unreasonable given the market and the location.
No, and these discussions overlap many constituents in town and many issues, but our role, Open Space Committee, is not necessarily to judge the affordability. That would be for the town, or if it came before Community Preservation Committee, to judge its affordability based on how CPA might be involved. But our role is to judge how a property meets our open space goals, and to bring it forth in that light. I think that's kind of what we've always done. Not all suggestions go through, and not all are practical for the town, but our job is to say if it makes sense from an open space and conservation perspective.
Yeah, this one totally makes sense. I mean, I definitely think we should pursue it.
Well, very good. I'm hearing similar comments from most of us here.
Yep, I agree.
Is there any other substantial comments, or would anyone like to suggest a motion on which we would vote for our opinion?
I guess what I would just say is just one thing, and that, I mean, the goal of the open space obviously is to preserve open space for the town's overall benefit and improve and expand properties for active and passive open space. I mean, I feel like this is exactly what this sort of opportunity is exactly what we're looking for in terms of, trying to acquire this type of land from an open space perspective.
Yep, and there aren't that many large parcels left in town even, so.
Yep, great point.
And echoing that, I should have brought up before, but Vinny copied us on the memo from Lori Connors, who was bringing it to the planning board that met last night. But she pointed out pretty much exactly those points that you did, Paul, on the goals, that it meets, two key goals anyway of our open space plan. And pointed out more specifics about its abutting existing conservation land and would provide a corridor to other lands up in Berlin as well as in Northborough. Okay, very well. I sense a consensus building. The time is 6:50 and one of our members has 10 minutes remaining.
I guess I can take a crack.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Right. I was
No, go
going
ahead.
to make a motion. I was going to make a motion, Brian, if that's okay. So I guess I'll make a motion that the open space, or make a motion to approve the consideration of the town's first right of refusal for 432 Whitney Street, map 15, parcel 22, upon its withdrawal from the Chapter 61A program.
Second. Okay.
The motion was by Paul Tagliaferra and the second was by whom?
I think I
Ashley.
seconded. Someone else did too.
I'll give you credit, Leslie. I think I heard you.
No, it wasn't me. It was Brian and then Ashley.
Brian
Oh,
and
I'm
Ashley.
sorry.
Right.
I'll take credit. I can be the tiebreaker if you'd like.
We'll go with Brian. He went out of his way to call in, and Ashley too, calling in from remote. Thank you, both of you. Well, very good. So the motion essentially approves the recommendation that the town exercise its right of first refusal. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes.
Very well. Any discussion of the motion or other comment? Hearing none, I'll ask for a roll call vote on the motion. Please say yay or nay when I call your name. Paul Tagliaferra,
Yes.
Dan Clark,
Yes.
Leslie,
Yes.
Brian,
Yes.
Paul Cacciatore,
Yes.
and Ashley.
Yes.
And John, yes as well. So it's 7-0 in favor of recommend that the town exercise its right of first refusal. Vinny, would you be able to craft a brief memo to that regard?
I can do that. I can draft an email for you or a letter, either one.
Yeah, brief paragraph on
Yep.
town stationery. I think the select board and other boards would like to have it in writing, right?
I can do that.
Excellent. Okay, there's a lot more questions on this I'm sure that we'll have in the future, but time is short. I would like to move on. I don't think there's any other new business. Is there any quickly that anyone has? Hearing none, I'd like to ask for consideration of our minutes of September 25, 2023, which was our last meeting. Assuming everyone studied them. Could I have a
So
motion
moved.
to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Leslie. And a second?
Second.
Thank you, Brian. Roll call vote to approve the minutes. Paul T,
Yes.
John, I'll say yes. Dan?
I don't think I was at that meeting. I'm not sure I could.
You're, I think you might be right. Stand by.
No,
Was I there?
you're there. Yep.
And you were there.
Yes, I approve. Couldn't
Good
remember.
for you. Leslie, you were not there.
Leslie was not.
Brian Belfour was there.
Yes, everybody else was.
Brian, do you approve?
Yes, I approve.
Paul Cacciatore, do you approve?
Yes.
And Ashley was there. Do you approve?
Yes.
Thank you. We have 6 members who were there approving the minutes. They are confirmed. Last piece then is we were trying to meet every other month. We tried end of November, couldn't get a quorum. Next meeting is in 2 months that we had out there for a date was January 22nd, Monday night. Does that still look clear for everyone at this time anyway?
Yep.
Yep, it's good for me.
Very good. We'll keep it there
Yep.
and we'll get an agenda and a reminder out somewhere around second week of January.
Yep. And that's at 7 o'clock for people?
Yes, is that okay? Or does it help if we meet earlier, by the way? It's probably okay.
7 o'clock is fine for me.
That one's good.
That works.
Great. We'll go with that.
On Zoom? Gonna meet Zoom?
Sure. Yep. Zoom it. Very good. Any other questions, business for tonight? Otherwise, we're in good shape to conclude.
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Second on the motion?
Second.
Second.
Very good. All in favor of adjourning? Paul Tagliaferra,
Yes.
Dan,
Yes.
Leslie,
Yep.
Brian,
Yes.
Ashley.
Yep.
Paul Cacciatore,
Yes.
and me, John. Yes. Thank you. We are adjourned. Appreciate you making time to come on.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
John.
Thanks,
And
everyone.
Merry Christmas,
Thank you.
everybody.
Merry Christmas.
Yep.
Merry
Happy
Christmas.
holidays.
Happy holidays.
Happy-
See ya.
Thank you. Ashley, how's